Okay, this is Josh Reynolds. Um, Human Behavior in the Social Environment 2, Summer 3, 2018, UH Downtown. It's the social work program. And so this is a quick lecture for chapter 7, 8, and 9. Last one is about, 20 pages or so, or 20 minutes, I should say. Writing a book, so I only think in pages as a unit of measurement now. So just like last time, spend about 5 to maybe up to 7 or 8 minutes talking about one concept from each of these chapters. This is chapters 7, 8, and 9, the last 3 chapters in the book. And again, some of this is migrated to 3rd edition. Those are nuances, y'all. Let's just keep rolling. And so again, this is not a substitute for the book itself or for any other of the resources you have for the book. But it's just to talk about what this means in the real world a little bit in a little more depth, one concept from each chapter. And these are pretty, these last 3 are somewhat self-explanatory, but I want to talk about how these can work in right? These can work in your career. The chapter 7. We're actually just going to stay on this first slide. The single biggest determinant of whether people are happy in their jobs, believe it or not, is not money. This is social work. This is accounting. This is engineering. This is teaching. This is anything. A doctor, a lawyer, or whatever, right? It's not money. It's not your hours. It's not your compensation. Some of it has to do with mastery. Like, are you good at what you do? Are you allowed to express yourself? That matters, right? And there's some other things that you might think about, but usually on the top 10 things of what people really value about their jobs or don't value, which is why they leave or why they stay, how much they put into it. Do they just kind of do the bare minimum? Or do they really kind of go above and beyond? And in our work, you have to go above and beyond because the job's not done until the client's in a good place, right? And so there are lots of nights and weekends. So if money's not the most important thing, and usually on a lot of surveys, and if you have any future classes, we'll actually go through some of these surveys. On the top 10 things, money's usually 6th or 7th on the list of important things. You have to have enough to live on, but more than about $40,000 or $50,000 for an individual, or about $70,000 or $80,000 for if there are 2 wage earners in the household, money doesn't matter. It's not correlated with happiness at all. In fact, as Puffy said, more money, more problems, and the research actually bears that out. But the truth of the matter is, after you have enough to live on, it doesn't matter after that, right? So get your $40,000 and go after your money. I'm not saying don't, but I'm saying it will make you happy. You can buy a jet ski and you can be happy for a few minutes, but at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself, right? So if money's not the most important thing, and sometimes even the work isn't the most important thing, what do people say is? And if you've had a job before where it was, people were around, usually it's either a decent experience, a great experience, or a miserable experience. And it really depended on the people around you. That's culture. So if you enjoy your colleagues, if you feel a sense of connectedness to them, if you all share the same values, if you're working towards the same goals, then you're going to love that job, even if you hate some parts of it. And if you don't have that, even if you like the work that you're doing, you're not going to stick around. So what we call culture fit. Are you a good fit with the organization that you're working with or that you're going to work for? Sometimes that's about your team specifically, like your colleagues and your direct supervisor or your boss. And sometimes that's about the agency or organization as a whole. And so there can be even different cultures within an organization. Sometimes you're in a great organization and on a bad team. Or sometimes you're in a bad organization, but you're on a really fantastic team. It's called an island of excellence. And so culture's, it's the most important thing because people stay if there's a good culture fit. So if you're there long enough, you're going to start to become one with the culture. So if everyone there's kind of miserable and always kind of talking about the weekend and complaining about their job, you're going to as well over time. I don't care how positive and optimistic you are now, that will grind on you. It's contagious, and it'll bring you down eventually. And it means I can't believe this is happening. It happens to everybody. It's happened to me, right? It happens to everybody. Now you can fight it, but really you either kind of leave or you become one with the culture. There are very few people who stay for a long time that don't do that. On the other hand, if it's a great culture, if people are aspirational there, they work hard, they're upbeat, it's like when you pull up for work, if you've ever had a job, do you get a sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach? Or do you feel like, yeah, here we go, it's game time? That has to do with culture as well as with you, right? Now, you may just be, some people are just miserable people, and no matter how good the culture is, there's nothing you can do about it. But a lot of us, like, we're pretty happy, but we can be miserable sometimes too, right? So what do you do with that? Well, if you find a good fit, you'll go more towards the happy side. Let's say the grateful side, because that matters. The side that promotes self-care, the side that encourages you to do your best, to really stretch yourself and go after it, that rewards you for doing that. And the reward isn't necessarily monetary. Usually rewards in nonprofit terms are not monetary. You get more job responsibilities, not more money. But you do get promoted over time, which is how my career went down. So that does happen, but you do it because you love to do it. And you get pulled in the other direction, obviously. Crabs in a bucket, right? Crabs in a barrel. Everyone knows that. So what is organizational culture? If it's the most important thing, as you know from the book and from your experience probably, it's the shared norms, beliefs, values, symbols, and rituals that guide social behavior. We all act in response to our culture. If you're from the South, which I'm not, there are certain things that you do and you don't do. And I've noticed that because I'm not from here, right? And if you live somewhere else, you're like, people act super weird. You act weird to them because it's not part of the culture, right? So what are norms? Norms are, of course, are the things what time, how long do you take for lunch, right? Do you like walk on the grass? Like, are you encouraged to take time off for yourself? Or are you supposed to kind of work yourself to death? Which I'll talk about in the next chapter, actually. The beliefs. Do you believe clients can succeed? Do you believe people are worth taking a shot at? And do you believe people are worth the risk? And if you have certain programs, that's kind of the big deal. If you can't take everyone, then you really have to believe, if you only have limited resources, you have to believe in the clients that you're serving. Not all places do. In fact, a lot of places don't believe in the clients. And that is super sad. What do you do, right? You get out of there is what you do. Don't try to, you can work for 10 years or 20 years until you become the boss and try to change that. But organization and culture is going to pull you in that direction, right? What are the symbols? Sometimes it is about the hierarchy and the title promotions and that kind of stuff, or the parking spots, or the lunch orders, or who's able to speak in meetings, or all sorts of stuff like that. Other times it's just the flow of the office, right? But you'll see, by the way, that your leadership is setting their goals and how they're incentivizing y'all to do good work or not, sometimes not do good work, what they really value. Because what you value, you're going to put more into, right, in your staff. You're like, oh, that was good, do more of that. Here's a carrot. And sometimes that's just acknowledgement immediately. You're like, you know what? Josh, I'll just use my name. Josh really killed it this month, and really proud of the work that he did. And Josh, do you want to stand up and be embarrassed? This is what I would say to my staff, right? You want to stand up and be a little embarrassed, but also talk about what made you successful. Of course, that's embarrassing, but of course, people really love that. And that acknowledgement goes a lot further than a little raise. And in a nonprofit world, all you can really do is a little raise, anyways. And then the rituals. How often do you meet? Do you meet for happy hour? Do people get together outside of the office? Do you play sports together? Do your kids get together? Whatever. Do you work 9 to 5, or do people work long hours? Do they work weekends? What are the rituals? Do you have holiday parties? Do you spend time together when you don't have to? And so one huge upside, I worked for Neighborhood Centers, which is now called Baker Ripley, and I did a lot of work at the Gulfton Neighborhood Center, which is called Baker Ripley, which is now the name of the big organization. And they would have movie nights sometimes on like once a month on Fridays, and I would take my kids to it. They'd put it out in the big green space with like a big projector. And I didn't go because like the bosses were going to see me, right? Because most of them weren't there. And also I was kind of one of the bosses myself at this point. And I didn't go to like make a point to anyone else. I went because it was a fun thing to take my kids to, and I enjoyed the people, right? And so when you get a job like that, that's a really good sign. So those are all different expressions of the culture. How people are treated, how they're valued, how people talk about each other. Do people support each other, or is there a lot of backstabbing going? All that stuff really matters, and you can guess that organizations that have a positive culture, whether in business or in our business, which is human service, which means serving humans, if you think about it, right? If that's the case, how many more people can be served through a positive culture? How many people can be served better? It's not just serving 1,000 clients, it's making sure that they go like this with their lives, right? And that's why we're here. So this is the working environment or the organizational environment, and it does matter tremendously. A good environment will make you will help you be very successful. Doesn't guarantee it. And a bad environment makes it very hard for success. You can still be successful. That's a climb, though. The people that do that are rock stars, and you're like, I wish you were somewhere else where they would value you because you're doing this. You can go even higher, right? You're a superstar. And you can be a super duper star somewhere else. All right, chapter 8. I thought about what I wanted to say. Look, y'all, you know this. Like, you have to leave the world a better place. We found it, and we have to make it better for the next generation. I'm a parent, so I say, like, I want to leave a better world and have my kids be better prepared for this world than I was. That's the whole goal. You want the next generation to do better. That is how human history works, right? We're like one of the few species that actually cares about that would prioritize the health and safety and well-being of the next generation over our own. It's a very human trait. A lot of other animals were like, let the babies die off, we'll just make some more, right? But we're like, no, those are our babies. They're going to take over the world one day. But right now, obviously, we're not doing a great job of leaving that to them. So you can do all the great work you want to, but if it's like in 2080 or 2100, like the entire like Houston region is flooded because of global warming or global climate change, whatever they're calling it, doesn't really matter what I do in the third ward in like 2015 or 2020 or whatever, you know. And of course it does, right? But we really have to we have to think about the future. And so we talk about sustainability in terms of organizations, but also sustainability means of our environment, of our living space, and that kind of stuff as well. So it talks about the 4 forms are cultural, ecological, economic, and political. And I'm not really going to get into this except to say that there's a famous writer that said, no man is an island. And that's true. I've tried to be one. But we're social creatures and we're connected to each other. And so part of respect, not just for the people that you care about right now, but also respect for everyone around you, is to be able to think about the future and think, how are my actions today impacting the future? And I think, if you think about the things that we can do to reduce our eco footprint, that's probably the most direct form of that, right? Theoretically, if I take fewer long distance flights, cross continent flights, and if I recycle and I buy less stuff, and like instead of buying water bottles, I just like get like a few like water bottles and just use those over and over, and then all the stuff that we know, it actually does make a difference. Some climatologists will tell you it's too late. Others will say it's never too late. But I say as long as we're still breathing and living, we might as well be trying to make the future better. Because if you're not, what are we really doing? But this is also political. And you think about like how the course of human history and rights goes. And you think of parallels from women's suffrage to civil rights to the rights of gay, lesbian, transgender, and other minority groups now. And you even think about the racial and ethnic divides that are happening in 2018 and the political policies. I mean, the most obvious example is the wall, right? Which is it's an insane idea, but it's not supposed to be a real thing, y'all. It's supposed to be divisive. We don't want those people. And sometimes those people mean people who look different than you, racially, culturally, ethnically, gender, whatever. But oftentimes, it just means pure tribalism, which is, if you're not part of me and mine, I don't care about you. I'd use stronger language if this was an internet video, right? And unfortunately, it's how a lot of people think. First of all, that's not, we're social creatures. We're meant to be together. And hatred in your heart just poisons you too, which is what a lot of this is about. It's about poison, self-inflicted poison. And it's really sad the effect it's having on the world. But the third thing is, you can't build walls and build fences and keep people out. That's not how nature's going to knock them down until we kill the earth, right? And so sustainability is not just ecological, right? It is political and it is economic, and a lot of the stuff is based on economics. It is based on race and everything like that. Too. Of course, it is gender. It's based on money. You all know that. But there's a way to make money off this stuff, and in my experience, good ethics is also good business. And the people that don't understand that, they got lucky by accident, right? There's a better way to do this. So that's what I wanted to say about sustainability is people think it's not your responsibility. Of course it is. Of course it's all of our responsibilities. That's part of the code that you take. If if you think about what the words in your social work code of ethics means, it's not too hard to figure that part out. All right, last part. I don't know. I thought about what to say about this as well. Here's what I want to say. I don't care what you are. I hope that you're happy, and I hope you believe in something, even if it's yourself or you believe that something's out there but you don't know what it is. But I do, if we don't believe anything connects us or binds us anyway, this is not a religious thing. It's maybe a little spiritual. It's not religious. That's tough. That's a tough way to live, right? And there are ways to live well doing that, but at the end of the day, I think so I will self-identify. I grew up as a Christian, and I guess I still am, but I guess I'm called what's called a polytheist or a pantheist now, which means I kind of believe in everything. And I'm also a minister, so in at least 2 religions that I know of that I'm recognized in. But that's just me as a person, and that is what guides my values. And that's why it's important to say that, is because you think about, like, okay, who was, and this is different because we're not face to face, right? But if I wasn't an online teacher for some summer class, if we were colleagues, or if I was your client, my religious background would matter tremendously because it formed who I was. Maybe I leaned into that, maybe I ran away from that, maybe I changed over time, but it matters. And so, so the same way of course we were founded by, and it doesn't matter. Everything was mainstream products. Like Protestantism was like 80% of our country at the point where social work was born, right? So of course it was a religious thing because religion was really dominant in those days. But if you think about the values and ethics, they do have a lot in common with not only kind of the ideas of Western civilization and Enlightenment, but also Judeo-Christianity, right? And that's neither right nor wrong. There are wonderful values from I've studied a lot of religions, y'all. There are wonderful values from a lot of religions, and a lot of them, almost all of them, would form a good backbone for society. But we do have that separation because wherever things start, they change over time, and society changes, and things have changed. And this talks about how things changed over many millennia, and how this is all kind of whatever. I'm not going to get into reading the history lesson and stuff, but I will say this: understanding where our field comes from can help explain its values, including some of the values that needs to be updated. And that's why the Council on Social Ethics and NASW and everything, like every couple of years they'll relook at the stuff and say what has changed. Now there are 2 ways to look at it. One is the 10 Commandments. We got it right the first time, we're done forever. I don't believe that. I actually believe more in no, I'm not gonna do it. Well, yeah, sure, I'll say. So those kind of thoughts are more, that like we've got it, like it's hard law, right? The way that our values are, those are kind of conservative Christian / Catholic values, but they're also reflected in some of Islam and some other religions. I'm not Jewish, but I do tend more towards this Jewish tradition of always examining how things started, but doing it in a light of what do we know now that we didn't used to know? Because of course, as we advance and progress, we know more than we used to, right? The Earth is not flat anymore, right? And everyone should have a vote, right? And all people should be free and enjoy civic and economic liberties as well as freedom. These are ideas that would have been radical a couple hundred years ago. So if our sector was formed in a time when the dominant religion is not dominant anymore, or at least it's less homogenous, and the values have also changed, and also our understanding of social behavior, of human nature, of how the brain works, of how medicine works, of what the universe actually consists of, like there was a heliocentric approach. So we believed for a very long time that the entire universe was like 8 planets that revolved around the Earth, right? And now we know differently. So of course we should update stuff and we shouldn't just swing the pendulum just to make changes. But if we are advancing as a global society, then our values that we profess in our religions should change. Our values that we profess in our faith, in our professions, you know, as a social worker should change as well. And so I tend to think about this from an ecological perspective, but also from an anthropological perspective, right? Things were different. That's how the stuff went. Here's how it changed over time, right? But even now, and whatever, there are a lot of, you've read this, it's really, you know, this is really good stuff, right? But it's important to understand the fundamental underpinnings and tenets of where things, how things started and how they evolved over time, to understand if you sign up for this profession as a social worker by getting your bachelor's and maybe your master's, by adhering to our code of ethics, by getting licensed, by whatever that you do that, you're agreeing to a set of principles that you're going to live your professional and your personal life by. So you better know what those things are. It's like taking wedding vows, you know? You want to know what's in those vows, right? Because you're married to them for, well, until you're not anymore, right? Theoretically, hopefully for life. That's the idea. And so when you enter into this profession, knowing where this profession came from is very important. But also how people, the last thing I'll say about this is, how do people actually use religion in their their faith? And I talked about this in an earlier chapter, how people use their faith in a program called Calmer Life, right? Because it was important to the clients that we were serving, that were being served. In the same way, whatever resources and assets and beliefs people bring to the table, that has to do with their culture. And culture and religion are entirely enmeshed. So the more that you understand the stuff, where it came from, how it's evolved over time, the more you can understand people's perspectives and how to help them. But on a macro level, you can also understand how the social environment and how culture shapes our fundamental behaviors, and how culture is shaped by things like spirituality and religion. It'll make you a more effective practitioner, whatever you believe. And again, I don't care what you believe as long as you're happy and fulfilled, but I do believe that you should believe that this stuff is important, number one. Maybe just clinically important, maybe not personally to you, I don't care, right? And number two, there is something that binds us together, and it is something called social justice. And this is going to be blasphemy, but if you want to be a social worker, social justice is our religion, if you think about it. And I'm not trying to blaspheme, like you have your personal, but our professional code is our code, like the Ten Commandments was a code, right? So if you're going to subscribe to something, know something about it before you make that decision. And you'll like it. The more you find out, you're like, but then the more you're like, oh, that makes sense. And where we are now, you're like, yeah, you know what? That actually does fit me and my values. But if this doesn't fit you and your values, go explore it some more. Check your own assumptions. I'm not telling you to change what you believe in. Dig a little deeper on this side, but also on your side. See what happens. And what you'll find is you're going to be fundamentally the same person that you are, but you'll have a deeper understanding of yourself, and you'll have a much deeper understanding of where your field comes from, where your profession comes from. And then you'll understand, does this really fit for me? Kind of like, does this organization fit for me? And for most people, almost everyone, let's say most people, yes, the answer is yes. But it's a very deep yes. It's a yes you can't just get to with a superficial read this, read that. So go explore this stuff if you want to do well. All right, y'all, that's the last lecture for the books, and I wish you the best.